Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, here we go, folks. Heupel wants the rivalry, and we know that Nick Saban is not happy about it. He thinks it's unfair, but I think our guy Heupel says bring it on. We're also going to talk about recruiting. We got a lot going on in this show. All right, so I was real pleased to read this article about Josh Heupel. You know, the last thing you want is a head coach that, you know, is backing down. Josh Heupel doesn't back down. And I really like hearing this from him. And right here it says, Josh Heupel hopes Tennessee continues to face historic rivals amid format talks. And here it talks about the upset over Alabama at Neyland Stadium, snapping a 15-year losing streak. And you don't snap a 15-year losing streak with a guy that's only been here 2 seasons unless he really knows what he's doing, number one. And number two, he's not afraid to face the big dogs. And honestly, at this point, I'm not shocked at all that he has that type of attitude. Talks about before entering Heupel's office, 3 giant photos from the game where they beat Alabama.
Alabama!
Hang there. And I think that's basically for all the recruits that come in. And they're talking about the series, at least on an annual basis, could come to an end if the SEC elects to continue operating under a conference scheduling format of 8 games. Now, I don't think they're going to stick with the 8 games. I think they're going to go to 9 games and have 3 permanent opponents and then 6 and 6, which would be you'd play the other 6 teams and the other 6 teams the next year. So you'd play everybody every 2 years and then 3 teams every year. And that's all based on the fact they're bringing in Texas and Oklahoma next year. If they stick with an 8-game model, each team would play 1 permanent opponent and 7 rotational ones. They are also considering a 9. Of course, we talked about that. Heupel made clear he wishes to continue the series against Alabama. We'd love to play our historical rivals every single year. It's important to our fan base. Players want to play these games when they come to Tennessee. I don't know what the scheduling model is going to look like, but we want to play our historic rivals. It says the SEC's future scheduling format has been a hotly debated topic, that's for sure. And we're probably going to find out in the late spring. So, I mean, we're getting close to finding out what they're going to do. Now, we know Nick Saban was very upset about this and disappointed. His 3 permanent opponents that they floated would have been Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU. And he kind of flipped out on that one a little bit, was not happy. And he said they did it on a 10-year or whatever. He said, well, some of those years Tennessee wasn't as good as they've been in the previous 10 years, but now they are as good as they used to be before that 10 years. We got 3 teams, and 2 of them are in the top 10 and the others in the top 10 a lot, Saban said. Look historically over a 25-year history, the 3 best teams in the East are Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida. You look historically at 25 years, Alabama, LSU, and Auburn, and the 3 best in the West, so we're playing them all. So as you know, Saban was really tore up about it, and he's tore up about everything. He doesn't like the way Josh Heupel's offense runs. He wants rules changes to stop it. He doesn't like having to play us every year for whatever reason. You know, you would think if you won that many games in a row, you'd be thrilled. But I think Heupel's got his attention, and it's really upsetting because he really doesn't know how to stop that offense. And that, for a defensive-minded guy, is really upsetting. And it says while he's fine with playing more league games, I think he wants an easier schedule. And it talks about if they go with the 8-game system, secondary rivals will be lost on an annual basis, such as Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, Georgia, and the revival of Texas A&M. Heupel didn't say which format he prefers. But anyway, he wants to keep up the proud tradition, that game that is unique and that we have a lot of different rivals, and he wants to keep as many of them as he can. So we'll see how this plays out in probably the next 30 to 60 days. But he just wants to keep the rivalries where they are, which is fine with me too. You know, let's play the games that we've been playing. I'm fine with that. If they do move to 3 and 6, we'll still get to play every team every 2 years, and we'll probably play Alabama, Vanderbilt, and probably either Kentucky or South Carolina, that's fine, whatever. We'd be getting rid of Georgia every other year, but we'd still play them every 2 years. So either way, we're still going to have a tough schedule. And Heupel's all for it. It's like, hey, bring it on. Either way, I'm fine. And I had a bunch of you comment, you know, I told you folks that Heupel was in theater in college and that we came close to not having him as our head coach. And I actually found another clip of a part that he tried out for, and I'm going to show you that later. But since so many of you commented about the theater thing and him being an actor, I figured I might as well dig up some more footage about that. And I think you're going to find this one real interesting. But first, I want to talk about recruiting. Now, we got a 3-star offensive lineman out of Middle Tennessee. He's an offensive lineman, and I find this guy pretty interesting. First of all, he's 6'7", 275 pounds, so he's undersized as far as weight, but at 6'7", this is a guy that can probably handle 325 pounds very easily. And the team that he plays for, before everybody goes, oh, it's just a 3-star, the entire team, their offense is schemed around this left tackle. And it talks about him right here. He says, Perry likely needs to add 50 pounds of good weight before consistently seeing snaps for the Vols. He said, but his high school runs a unique offense that revolves around him. He said, how can a Tennessee high school run a successful system that lives and dies with the success of its right tackle, however they do it? Here's a picture of him. Said the formation begins in the wing T, and his team, Middle Tennessee Christian, ran mostly option keepers, but always followed Perry to the edge. He was responsible for sealing the edge when they went right, but when they went left, Perry had to kick around, basically a pulling tackle, and wall off the second-level linebacker. He repeatedly put his man through the ground, attacking with a strong force and punching his hands. He logged 25 offers. Vanderbilt, Memphis, and Mississippi State were the 3 biggest ones besides Tennessee. And here you'll see him right here as a right tackle, and there he is pulling, and, of course, he seals him off. And, you know, he's used to being the big dog, obviously. You can tell from that clip. But this is a guy, if you put some weight on him, could probably be a really good player. So don't just put him down into the 3-star category and say, you know, he's not going to be any good. He could be real good. And also realize he really wanted to play for Tennessee. This is a guy from Tennessee that wanted to come here. And when somebody really wants to be at a school, he's going to be focused. So I feel good about this. And I'm not worried about the rankings. I can see that this guy could grow into a real offensive lineman that could help us. Now let's talk about our 4-star cornerback that we got for 2025. And this is Shamar Arnox. He's committed for the 2025 class. He's a 4-star cornerback, and he picked us over at Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, and Auburn. He is 6'1", 170, and that's tall for a cornerback. So I know Tennessee's trying to get more length, and this guy certainly fits the bill. And Tennessee defensive back Willie Martinez says, we love length. When you're trying to go against these wide receivers that are tall and got great size, you want the length. It's not just the height factor. You've got to have the long arms. You've got to have the speed. You've got to have all the other skills. There's no doubt that we like to see those guys. And again, he is a 4-star, number 213 player in the country for 2025. And here it talks about all the cornerbacks that we brought in because, look, the defensive backs have been a real problem for us. That's really our weak link.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Okay, that's our Achilles heel. And so we have been recruiting like crazy at the cornerback position, and we also brought him in the transfer portal. Between Jordan Matthews, Ricky Gibson, 2 real strong 4-stars, and also Gabe Judy-Lawley, who is a starter at Vanderbilt and a starter at BYU, probably their best defensive back. So they have really been pushing hard in that one weak spot, and I think they're strengthening it quite a bit. So that's a nice pickup for the Vols, a nice 4-star into 2025 as we work on that class. And, of course, I'm expecting to pick up a 5-star quarterback in 2025, whether it'll be George McIntyre or Cutter Boley out of Kentucky. We know they have been to Knoxville more times than I have, and I live 30 minutes away and got family there. So both those guys have been to Knoxville to see Josh Heupel over and over and over and over. And who knows, we might end up with another 4 or 5-star quarterback that pops up out of nowhere. But I'm thinking it's going to be between those 2 guys. And we're just continuing to build this recruiting class for 2024 and 2025. Now, again, I did want to give you what I promised. And this was not easy to find. I mean, I had to dig deep to get into these vaults and find this footage of Josh Heupel back when he was in theater back at Oklahoma. And he had tried out for another part that, again, would have changed his life had he gotten this part. And this was a sort of an action movie that I think he would have done well in. And when you see his video footage, you're going to see, this guy, he had the moves that he needed.
I want you to be nice until it's time to not be nice.
So, yeah, as you can see, he came pretty close to getting that part. Now, I think it wound up going to a fella by the name of Swayze, who had, look, he had been in a big role called Dirty Dancing. You know, I think that's why he wound up getting the role over Josh Heupel. I mean, clearly Josh had the role down, but, you know, when the big-time actor comes in and swoops in, same thing that happened to him with Grease when John Travolta swept in. So I think if he'd ever got his break, you know, he'd have been big in Hollywood, and probably we'd have never seen him as a football coach. But so I'm glad that he didn't get his break, and then we have him here now. But anyway, I wanted to bring that out because we'd had so many people ask about if there was any more footage of him trying out for movies, and I was able to find that. It was not easy, let me assure you. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols and, of course, Josh Heupel's theater career and all kinds of things like that. And if you've not subscribed, it's right here on the left. Just hit that little button. I would appreciate it. Costs you nothing. Helps me out. And right over here is my most recent video. And I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.